Hi, Todd. Thanks for coming to Greencastle.
Thank you.
So I have a question for you. With a Twist is probably one of my favorite records, not just of yours, but period. I just think that's a gorgeous album, and I really enjoy what you did to it. But my question is, do you really hate the song Hello, It's Me, given the treatment you gave it on that record?
I'm sorry, what was the end of it?
Do you really hate the song "Hello, It's Me" given the treatment on that record? Is that...
No, I don't hate it. That wasn't an act of vengeance on the song. But that was actually maybe the fourth version that I've done of the song. There's the original Nas version, which is kind of a dirge, but was the first time it was a hit. Then there was the version that I did on Something Anything, which is a little bit peppier and with a big band sort of arrangement. Then there was a version that I was doing live that was a little bit more kind of like a show thing, and we played it with a shuffle rhythm, and it appeared on live records. There were live versions of that, which was the third version. So by the time I got to With a Twist, first of all, I got to do something in the genre, which was bossa nova, exotica, kind of, a very retro thing. But also something that's different enough from the other versions, that it doesn't seem like, we're going back to the same well and pulling up stinky water. And the result was this sort of more Martin Denny approach, something of an exotica thing. And I enjoyed doing it, and we did it live as well, and I enjoyed doing that. So it was, at least for me, nothing personal, Hello, It's Me, but if I'm required to do it exactly the way everyone remembers it, it's a definite albatross, and I ain't going there.
Please.
Hey, how you doing? I saw you last night in Louisville, and I noticed that you were playing a Line 6. Did you now, or have you ever been involved in modeling technologies like the Line 6 is using, or developing those sort of things?
On modeling technology?
Yeah, amp modeling,
You mean like guitar amp modeling and things like that?
Or the Line 6 amp, as they called it, modeling, the different...
Oh yeah, well my recent record, Arena, I used a Line 6 export as my audio interface for the vocals as well. It's got a phantom powered mic plug on the back. And I almost all the guitar sounds, except under some circumstance where I wanted something, just couldn't get it, are done with this Line 6 software called Gearbox. The sound is all in the computer, all modeled in the computer. And when I did use the amp, I took the direct preamp output and put it into the audio interface. And so there was never a mic in front of a guitar amplifier for the entire record. And I'm fine with that. And I've done records with, I did a Bad Religion record, one of these hardcore punk bands.
Right.
And we recorded all the guitars completely dry. We didn't use any of their amps. We used the Line 6 modeling for all of their guitar sounds for the entire record. So the advantage of that was all you do is capture the performance, but not the sound. And later you make it sound like anything you want. So the advantage of that is that you're not futzing and futzing and futzing trying to get the perfect sound. Just get a sound that's good enough, because the performance is the most important thing.
Oh, thanks for the shirt.
My pleasure.
Got the shirt last night, the signature.
And we should point out that the vocals for Arena were done in your linen closet, right?
Well, yeah, I don't actually have a studio in Kauai. I live in Kauai, by the way. I don't actually have a studio there. We just find a space. It's pretty rural. You can find a house, a guest house somewhere, a barn, set up and record in there, make lots of noise, nobody's bothered. And in the last couple records that I've done, the best place for me to record my vocals has been in the linen closet of our Bearsville house, because it's just full of linen, it's perfectly dead. But the advantage is I couldn't normally roll all the equipment in there, but since particularly the last record, I did it all on the laptop. All I have to do is, I'll put a little keyboard stand in there with a laptop, and I'm good to go. So.
Well, thanks for coming tonight, Todd. I missed you at the Vogue the other night, but I've seen you a couple times, and we appreciate you always coming to the Midwest. Because,
oh, it's my pleasure.
So. My question is, I'm a big Beatles fan, and I know throughout your career you've touched, I think you were part of Linda McCartney's photo album. She took some pictures of you in Central Park early on.
Yes.
Obviously, you produced Badfinger. Was that at the Apple Studios? And I'm just brainstorming here, so maybe you can just hit these as I go. And I know you had a little bit of back and forth with John Lennon. Did you ever meet up with Lennon after that? And when you were out on tour with Ringo, did you get a chance to ask him a lot of questions? And did you ever bump into to McCartney or Harrison out in your
I
travels?
have met at least once all the Beatles. Your original question, Linda McCartney, all of those photographs were taken before Linda met Paul. As a matter of fact, she took photographs of me the day before she left England to go photograph the Beatles, and she never came back. And let me see now. Yeah, I've met all the Beatles.
And Badfinger, I think.
Badfinger, did you produce it? Was
John
it at
Lennon
Apple?
thing, I met him briefly in L.A., and it was during John's wild years, as we say, when Yoko had thrown him out of the house.
The Lost Weekend.
Last weekend.
What a revolting development. She throws him out of the house that he paid for. Then
Where's Judge
he's
Wapner?
gallivanting around Los Angeles with Harry Nilsson, I believe, getting roaring drunk every night. And then one of the notorious incidents was him going to the Troubadour, I believe, and getting, like assaulting waitresses, and then putting a Kotex on his head.
Right.
And, clowning around with a Kotex on his head. And I was in England, and they were interviewing me, and the English music press, like all the English press, they really, accuracy is not really what they're about. Fair and balanced? No, I don't think so. They're looking for that one thing that they can print like this high, and get everyone like all head up. And so they were interviewing me about a bunch of stuff, but something came up about John Lennon. And I kind of, the gist of what I said, I don't remember what exactly I said, but the gist of what I said is, I don't believe it's very revolutionary to put a Kotex on your head and assault a waitress in the Troubadour. And this somehow, they made a big headline about it, and then John Lennon wrote back to them, a big open letter that they published, of course. This is us doing their job for them, And so he writes a big letter. He was into the Yanavian, Primal Scream thing at the time, which was in his mommy don't go, daddy come home thing, So he implied that, my whole thing was some sort of complaint against my father. When I was talking about him being not a revolutionary role model, he started imputing that I was looking at him as if he was my dad or something. And I may have had a response, but before it got too far, I actually got a phone call from him, and we realized that we were being sort of played a little bit, and we diffused the whole thing, but that was the last time I talked to him, and that was sort of an inconsequential conversation. So it was tempest in a teapot, as it were, just for the entertainment value of the English music press.
Did you produce Badfinger? Was it Apple Studios, or where did you record them?
No, Badfinger was done in several studios, but the one studio we didn't record in was Apple. Apple was tied up with mixing the concert for Bangladesh at the time, and that's why George Harrison had dropped out of the project. He got completely absorbed in this Bangladesh thing. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No problem.
My question is for Todd Rundgren, the producer. I'm a big fan of you as an artist. Saw you on Monday night. It was phenomenal. When you've had the opportunity to work in Bearsville on clearly large format mixing consoles and analog tape, and recording Bad Religion with PreSonus and Amp Farm, and on your new record I noticed Riffworks and Reason, these unconventional methods. Walk us through maybe the differences of recording a record in, let's say, 1972 to 2009, for starters, and is there a stock Todd Rundgren production technique when you first meet with a band and discuss production? Is it an arrangement? Is it more vibe? And maybe use like the New York Dolls new record as an example of how you're making records today versus...
My standard procedure is that before we even decide to take on a production, I get the material and evaluate the material. I don't even talk to them before that. In other words, if the song sucks, what's the point of having a conversation about it? You know, material's got to sound like it's somewhere near final product before you go into the studio. Otherwise, go back, write some more, rehearse some more, you know, then we'll take another look at it. But if the material seems like it's, if there's enough of it that's of a quality, it seems like we can make a record, then I talk to the band. It's all free up till now, by the way. Then we talk to the band and see whether, usually the first question I ask them is, if they've had a record before, why were you dissatisfied enough with your last record that you want me to do it? You know, what are you expecting out of me? Then I like to lay down certain ground rules. One is I don't want them rehearsing in the studio. I want them to come into the studio rehearsed. If we can't do it any other way, all right, but it's always better if the band comes in and is ready to just get right down to business and start performing the music, you know.
Do you do that pre-production? Are you in the rehearsal with them before they enter the studio?
I'm sorry.
Are you with them when they rehearse, or do you just
No,
say,
no, no, no.
come
I
ready?
don't have to be there when they rehearse. But I will make suggestions about the material, sometimes very copious. You know, I'll go through and say, you know, this verse is weak, you know, this thing, you rhyme the same word with itself. Couldn't you invest a little more thought into, you know, something like that, you know, when another word would do just as well, you know, and don't you dare try and record this song here because it blows. And I'll give them fairly, you know, detailed feedback on the material so that they can go and rehearse it that way. And it isn't required that it be perfect by the time they get to the studio, but certainly want them to be, you know, very close to being able to perform it. And the best bands are the ones who have written the material and have played it on the road first and then come into the studio because they know what it's supposed to sound like. You know, they're not guessing. And that makes it real easy. A band like Pursuit of Happiness, all of the stuff that we ever recorded with them, they had already played on the road for months, which meant that we did the records like start to finish a week to 10 days. And that's just taking it easy, you know, do 2-3 tracks a day and still have most of the day left over. And you had a question about New York Dolls?
Well, just wanted to contrast like the way you would make a record in 1972 at Bearsville versus you recording the Dolls in Hawaii.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a lot different now than the old days. I brought them out to Hawaii so there wouldn't be any circus going on. But there are only 2 original members, so the whole thing is a, you know, completely rebuilt machine, I suppose. And of course, the audience will have to be the judge, but I think it's probably, arguably, the best record they've made, if you take it out of the context of like it's 1977 and whatever, you know. But that's it.